Hello and good morning, everyone. Today is December 5th of 2021, and welcome back to a Sunday edition of the Super Stream. Today is December 5th of 2021, one day after the only total solar eclipse of the year. Got a lot to talk about, as usual, in this video. We're going to look at this school shooting in Michigan that occurred over the past week, back on November 30th. Now, November 30th, which was the date I did my last Super Stream, was a date that I said ahead of time would be very important in regards to coronavirus, the Omicron variant, and it's certainly no coincidence that we got this big school shooting at Oxford High School, which has the O to start, just like Omicron. Remember, O is the 15th letter? The shooter in that story was 15 years old. So we're going to talk about this and how it connects to some other world events. One of those being the recent approval of a COVID-19 pill manufactured by the Merck Group. This Merck Group is actually coded alongside Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And the name Whitmer is pretty interesting because over the past year or two, ever since this plandemic began, a lot of Michigan residents have referred to her as Governor Hitler based on her extremely draconian measures in her state. Now, last week, we had Austria announce lockdowns for the unvaccinated and the forthcoming of mandatory vaccination. Of course, Hitler was born in Austria. Austria's announcement also came on the same day as the Rittenhouse verdict, and the name Rittenhouse is Austrian. Well, now the next nation that announced a lockdown for the unvaccinated is Germany, where, of course, Hitler was the chancellor and then Führer prior to World War II. So we'll look at how that announcement in Germany connects to the numerology of Angela Merkel, appropriately wearing red, the color of the devil. Towards the end of the video, we'll also look at a few celebrity deaths. Actor Eddie Mecca from Laverne and Shirley dying at 69. Televangelist Marcus Lamb from Dallas, his death making news the same day that C.D. Lamb from Dallas played on national television. And then yesterday, for I think the fourth week in a row, we had the death of a major NFL football player and news breaking just a day or two before that week's NFL games. So we'll look at the death of Claude Humphrey and how even this potentially holds more clues for this year's Super Bowl. But before we get there, let's start with a story that the media actually helped us decode right off the bat. So yesterday, the Michigan Wolverines won their first Big Ten championship in quite a while. In fact, I can't remember them winning a Big Ten title game. In the game, they scored 42 points to defeat the Iowa Hawkeyes. And even the media noted how bizarre it was that they scored 42 points when they had the number 42 literally stamped on their uniform, specifically for this game. Now, the reason they did this is because one of the victims in the school shooting, his name was allegedly Tate Meyer, and he was a football player who wore number 42. And the man is being hailed as a hero because he was killed trying to take the gunman down. And I tell you what, guys, the names in this school shooting are so bizarre. It's obvious that there's something more going on here. You know, we start with the name of the shooter being Crumbly, as the nation's economy is crumbling, of course. And the name of this guy, Tate Meyer. We'll talk about this more in depth, but how about this? One of the victims was named Madison Baldwin. Baldwin, the same week that Alec Baldwin came on television to talk about his accidental shooting. And then you even have a guy named Justin Schilling. So, I mean, how much more do you need to see with this? But yeah, here we go. 42 points for the Michigan Wolverines. Now, the Michigan Wolverines are coached by Jim Harbaugh. And I want to point out that Harbaugh equals 42. His name also equals 150. And this is relevant because, again, O is the 15th letter in both the English alphabet and even the Greek alphabet. And here we're talking about the Omicron variant, Omicron, the 15th letter in Greek. In Gematria, using the reverse alphabetic order, the word 15th sums to 150, just like Harbaugh. And Michigan's game over the Iowa Hawkeyes took place on December 4th, which is the date of this year's only total solar eclipse, the date with the big O in the sky, the moon covering the sun. And remember, the word eclipse even has reduction gematria of 42 with the S exception. Furthermore, 42 sums to 142 in the alphabetic order. So does Wolverines, Michigan's nickname, 42. Eclipse Sacrifice, 142. Again, the name of the student who was being honored by the Wolverines was Tate Meyer. And how about the fact that Tate Meyer sums to 107 and 109? That's the name of the man dead in the shooting. Shooting equals 107 and 109. The shooting was at Oxford High School, which equals 107 and 109. Coach Harbaugh called Tate Meyer a hero after the game. And, of course, the word hero sums to 46 and 62, just like the guy's name, Tate. 46, 62. That school shooting was on November 30th. And November 30th had numerology of 82. 82 is the ordinal value of Oxford 82. And the shooting got more national attention during the Big Ten Conference Championship game. Look at how Big Ten Conference sums to 82 and 80. The same values as Oxford, 82 and 80. So let's talk a little bit more about this number, 82, as it's extremely significant to what's been going on this week. On November 30th, again, the date that I said would be significant in relation to coronavirus and the Omicron variant ahead of time, the FDA approved the first COVID-19 pill created by Merck & Company. And would you believe that the number 82 is stamped directly right there on the pill itself? 82. Approved on a date with 82 numerology. The first pill approved to treat COVID, which has reverse gematria of 82. Now, why is the number 82 so significant for coronavirus? Coronavirus was introduced in a very significant astrological period in the United States, which is during the period between the two great American total solar eclipses, one in 2017, one in 2024. And this is not even mentioning an annular eclipse in 2023, which goes over the southwest part of the nation. These two eclipses over the United States, the second one occurring on lunar phase 1253. The first one occurred to begin lunar phase 1171. That means there's exactly 82 lunar phases between these two great American total solar eclipses. And only during a total solar eclipse are you able to see the corona of the sun. This virus is literally named after the sun and the eclipse code. And again, this all occurring the same week as the only total solar eclipse of this year. So this is the first pill to be approved. The first vaccine to be approved was from Pfizer. And notice how Pfizer also has this 82 value. When you write out Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, you get this Latin value of 2423. And 2,423 is the number of days between these two eclipses. This is also 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days. 2423. And 2423 is what we call a prime number, divisible only by 1 and itself. And 2423 is the 360th prime number, 360. The number of degrees in a circle. The circle, the logo of Oxford High School. And check this out. In Greek, the letter Omicron actually has gematria of 360. So if you look up the spelling of Omicron, I know it's on here. Here we go. Check this out. You open up the Greek isopsephy cipher and look at this. Omicron has a value of 360. Again, the number of degrees in a circle. Now, just to point out how significant this number 82 is, because this is a very common thing. You know, you get one total eclipse, and then 82 lunar phases later, you'll get another total eclipse that intersects it. That's fairly common. And notice how the number 82 has Sumerian gematria of 666. And 666 is a huge number connected to the eclipse code. Of course, the Earth's axis, 66.6 degrees. The Earth's orbital velocity, 6,616 miles per hour. And there's so much more connecting 666 to the moon and the sun. Remember how 666 in the alphabetic order equals 275. This is the same value as both Food and Drug Administration and World Health Organization, 275. If you write out Merck and Company, who is responsible for this COVID pill, you get a value of 156, and this is another huge number to the eclipse code. Of course, eclipse is always 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases apart, as the Hebrew language tells us. Eclipse 156, 666 156. And remember, the first vaccine that was approved was Pfizer-BioNTech, 156. Pfizer and BioNTech also has gematria of 69. And notice how this Merck COVID pill, let's see if I can find this. Nah, this is the Pfizer pill. Here it is. Molnupiravir, the name of the COVID pill, is 69 in reduction. And remember, 69, the big eclipse number, 69. And this pill was approved exactly 690 years after the great 1331 eclipse, the only eclipse to be all over land 13 and 31. So let's look a little closer at Merck, because there's some more interesting stuff. So the Merck Group is a subsidiary, or Merck and Company is a subsidiary of the Merck Group. And this company was founded in Germany way back in the year 1668. See this? Founded in 1668. And again, on the same day that Merck got their COVID pill, we had this Oxford school shooting in Michigan where the governor is Gretchen Whitmer. And look at the full gematria of Gretchen Esther Whitmer. Her name equals 1668. How bizarre is that? Merck & Company was even founded as an independent company in the year 1917. And in our square number cipher, which is the alphabetic order but square numbers, each number multiplied by itself, notice how Mercury equals 1917. We had JFK, the ultimate Mercury ritual, born in 1917. But think about Merck, right? Merc being short for mercury. And historically, mercury has been that most damaging element in the vaccines. In regards to 1917, with mercury and the Merc pill, remember this was the value of Tate Meyer, right? He had the 19 and the 17, just like Oxford High School, 19 and 17, shooting, 19 and 17, numerology. Two days after the pill was approved, Führer Angela Merkel comes out and says, hey, if you haven't taken the government jab, then you're not allowed to go anywhere. You are now a subservient citizen to the New World Order. You have no rights. You have no freedoms because you're a danger to those around you. This is what the government wants you to think. So Angela Merkel has been a big player on this world stage. One of the world's first very influential female leaders. And while I'm not opposed necessarily to females running a nation, I hope you all see what's going on where I think women make for better puppets in office. Maybe that's a silly thing to say considering that we have Joe Biden, who just seems senile. Anyway, Angela Merkel making this announcement, nationwide lockdown for the unvaccinated, on a date with 55 numerology. And the number 55 kind of sticks out with Germany because in Latin Gematria, the word Nazi equals 550, like 55. Nazi also equals 50, like Angela Merkel, 50, for more 55s. And Merkel is coded alongside the old German Führer Adolf Hitler. Check out the date that Merkel took office, November 22nd, 1122. In reverse Sumerian, a cipher we just looked at, Adolf Hitler equals 1122, just like the date she took office. The name Hitler has double gematria of 222 using the Latin and the ordinal prime cipher, 222. So it's appropriate that his namesake is being used in a story about mandatory vaccination, which Germany says they will introduce next year in the year 2022. How perfect, since mandatory vaccination equals 222. Next year, guys, it's going to be an interesting one. Order out of chaos, remember, 222. Notice how the word Führer equals 76, and Adolf Hitler died 76 years ago. Worth pointing out. But as usual, when it comes to the CV-19 virus, the 666 code is in play. Now, Angela Merkel made this announcement on December 2nd, the date written 12/2. And 122, one of the reduction values of 666. Adolf Hitler was the leader of the Third Reich. And check out how in reduction Third Reich equals 66 and 60, like 666. In Sumerian, mandatory equals 666. So does vaccination 666. And of course, 666, the number of the beast in Revelation. And never forget, COVID-19, the same gematria as Revelation in our two primary large number ciphers. And these two standard extended methods, again, the same two that I share in every video, with the Latin or Jewish method, also called Agrippa's key, being certainly the primary one here. And of course, these are all in addition to the basic ordinal and reverse ordinal ciphers that are so common, the base 6 as I call them. Now, in the book of Revelation, 666 is spelled out as 603 score and 6. This gives us a value of 1610. And if you measure from the date that this entity took office to the date that she made her announcement, it was 16 years and 10 days. This power-hungry nut job, Angela Merkel. In this same cipher, the beast equals 311. This is the 64th prime number. And the name Merkel equals 64. So does the name Joe Biden, of course. All working in unison to bring about their version of the New World Order. Some people pointed out in the chat that they think Angela Merkel is Hitler's daughter. I tell you what, I'm not going to say she's not. You know, glance at these pictures, right? Is there a resemblance? Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. I guess we got to put the mustache over her to really figure this out. Because that's the only really way to figure out, I think, is to put the Hitler mustache on her and just do our own research, right? So we'll get to that a little later. The name Angela Merkel has some freaky overlap with COVID-19, coronavirus pandemic, and corona. She's got a lot of numbers that match. And to top it all off, her ordinal gematria in the alphabetic order is basically the number 19, which is the essential number of this whole ritual. Damn, Lambda, good find. Solar eclipse Gematria 666. All right, hang on a sec. To the notepad I go. That's cool. Good one. That's a great one. So one thing I wanted to point out in relation to Oxford and the school shooting is the nickname, Oxford Wildcats. I failed to point this out earlier. But Oxford Wildcats equals 1667, which is very close to 1668. Remember, 1668 is the year that the Mecca group was founded. 1668. And Oxford Wildcats also has this 1617. Remember we talked about 1917. And, of course, that's just with the 6 flipped upside down. You get 1917. Forgive me if I'm wrong here. I know this is random. Yes. Remember a couple years ago we had a shooting at the Gilroy Garlic Festival? For whatever reason, I remember that equaled 1617. What do you guys think? Is there a connection there? July 28th, 2019 to Oxford High School. Okay. So 857 days. This is essentially the maximum number of days you can have between two total eclipses, whether it's lunar or solar. Total eclipses are almost never separated by more than this time. So 857 days. This is an exact lunar count. 857 days is 29 lunar phases. And this ties into the big 1331 code, right? Just thinking out loud. 2929, 1331. Oh, another thing about this shooting is that the last name of the shooter was Crumbly, which equals 99. And check out his last name. 740 in Jewish. This was on November 30th, the big total solar eclipse date. Total solar eclipse 704. This was the same day that we had the Google Doodle, Lotfi A Zadeh, 704. Remember that? And then the name Ethan Crumbly matches eclipse in English and Hebrew. His parents had met with the school earlier that morning to discuss his behavior in the classroom. And look at this, you get another 1331. The name Ethan Crumbley is 204. Think about Hitler, born on the 20th of April, written 204. The name Gretchen Whitmer even matches Führer in Gematria, 86 and 76. Huh. That's funny. All right. So, moving on. I guess I'll jump in the chat real quick. It's been pretty active. But yeah, the whole Merck company, that is definitely a mercurial riddle. And again, it's mercury that's historically been the poisonous element of vaccines that have damaged so many people over the years and the generations. And yeah, the word merc connects to, think about mercenaries, right? Mercenaries are called mercs for short. And again, that's all about killing. So how people are trusting a company called Merck with their health, it's pharmakeia, it's magic. All right, so let's do this, because I'm kind of curious, right? Like Adolf Hitler, Angela Merkel. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Look at this picture. Oh, that's great. Look at that. I mean, she looks a lot like Hitler. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's pretty alarming, really. This reminds me of Barbara Bush and Aleister Crowley, doesn't it? I wouldn't doubt that a lot of these women are directly related to some of these people from the past. I would be surprised if that's not the case, actually. So this is one I'm kind of on board with. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see this. And people saying that, you know, our real president right now is actually Kamala Harris, that she's running the show. Guys, it's deeper than that. I mean, of course Biden's not really calling the shots, running the show, but it's not Kamala Harris either. Both these people are puppets. I'm sure Kamala has a little more pull in the day-to-day stuff, but I'm sorry, I just don't think that woman is very smart. I don't think she's smart enough to do much. Just based on how she talks, how she carries herself, I don't think she's smart at all. And, of course, the left would be like, oh, you must be a racist. It's like, no. I'm just a judge of people. And when I listen to her talk, I don't really hear anything of any... it's not coming from a place of intelligence. That's what I'll say. And did I not properly point out that Angela Merkel has the same... I mean, come on, Merkel. So shame on me for not pointing out that obvious phonetic alignment earlier. Someone mentioned an Omicron film from 1963. This might be worth looking into. A dead factory worker comes back to life after his body becomes inhabited by an invisible alien. I'm in. I'll watch that. No, I had not heard of this film. Debuted at the Venice International Festival. But yeah, guys, I mean, these plagues of the past, the Spanish flu pandemic, Black Death, you know, the plague from the 1300s. There's definitely something more than just a natural virus going on, of course. And remember, when it comes to history, anything before the late 1800s, mid-1800s, it's pretty hazy. I think a lot of the history, especially up to the founding of the United States and the short period thereafter, is probably manufactured and fake. course, I don't do a whole lot of investigation into that on this channel, but maybe in the near future. So I'll think about checking this out. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of information on it. It may have been a minor film. Possibly a coincidence, but it's strange that it has to do with, someone dying and coming back to life. All this zombie talk with the coronavirus and how people are just behaving and acting like zombies, just following orders, failing to think for themselves. There's probably something to it. So speaking of Merck and Merkel, I wonder if this Mecca is connected, the death of Eddie Mecca. Now, he died on November 27th, a few days before all of this stuff unraveled, but his death was not revealed in the media until December 2nd. And the date December 2nd is very significant to this man's numerology. First off, we start with this guy's birth name. He was born as Rudolf Edward Mekjian. I'm always bad with pronouncing these Armenian last names, so my apologies, but I want to point out how his birth name equals 221. And of course, now he's died here in the year 2021. Eddie Mecca was best known for his role as Carmine Ragusa on the TV show Laverne and Shirley. And notice how Carmine Ragusa sums to 221 as well, the name of his character. So how bizarre that we learn of his death on the date written 12/2 in the year 2021. It seems a little bit too perfect. And remember, this was a very special date because this is one of those very rare dates that was a perfect palindrome. 1202 is the exact inverse of 2021. Carmine Ragusa died 2012. Ooh, excuse me. Didn't see that burp coming. Ragusa died 2012 weeks after Laverne and Shirley ended. The TV show Laverne and Shirley is where he was known from. Now, this was a show that took place in Milwaukee. I believe it was a spin-off of Happy Days, which was like in Kenosha. Yeah, Happy Days. Oh, I didn't even think of this. Happy Days takes place in Kenosha. Right? What? No? Where does this take place? Or is it just Milwaukee? I was under the impression that Happy Days took place in Kenosha. This just says Midwestern United States. But Happy Days is very relevant to Milwaukee. What was it called? What was the name of the restaurant? Arts or something? Sorry, guys, I'm going off the cuff. Arnold? Was it Arnie's or something? Arnold's, that was it. So in the opening credits of Happy Days, they use this place called Leon's Frozen Custard in Milwaukee as the outside for Arnold's. Now, I was under the impression that Happy Days took place in Kenosha. Maybe someone can correct me. But then Happy Days spun off into a show called Laverne and Shirley. And I mentioned Kenosha because that's where the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing just happened. All right, back to the numbers. So this guy who played Carmine died 2012 weeks after Laverne and Shirley ended. And the phrase ritual sacrifice sums to 212 in multiple Kabbalah ciphers. Now check out his full name in Gematria. 212. Amazing, right? Back in 2018, one of the lead characters from that series, Penny Marshall, who played Laverne, she passed away. And notice how her name also has this 212 in ordinal. Eddie's full name has Jewish gematria of 2111. And notice how this number appears when you measure between the deaths of Penny Marshall and Eddie Mecca. So Laverne and Shirley, again, it was based in the city of Milwaukee. Milwaukee just won their first professional sports championship in 50 years this past summer. And remember, the Bucks won the NBA title on a date with primary numerology of 68, which is the gematria of both basketball and championship. Well, now we get the death of Eddie Mecca, which equals 68. His birth name was Rudy, which equals 68. And the reason I think this is connected to the Bucks is because of his last name, Mecca. When the Milwaukee Bucks won their last championship in 1971, they were playing in this arena, which used to be called the Mecca. Look at that, the Mecca Arena. Connected to the Bucks. Now we get the death of Eddie Mecca. The name Mecca equals 41. So does Eddie Mecca. 41. Now 41 is, of course, a prime number. This would be the 13th prime number. And the number 13 appears to be coded into all of this as well. We mentioned how it was connected to Laverne and Shirley and the date that it ended. Well, that ending date, May 10th, was the 130th day of the year. Remember, human sacrifice sums to 130. The guy who played Carmine died 130 days after the Bucks clinched the NBA title. And his character on the show was named Carmine Ragusa, which equals 130. If you include the end date, it's 131 days. This is a number that's relevant to Eddie Mecca in a number of other ways. And in fact, his full name, Rudolph Edward Mecchian, is 1301, the 212th prime number. Rudolph Edward Mecchian. Look at this. 1301, the 212th prime number, connecting us to this humongous 212 riddle that we led the post off with. In Gematria, Bucks equals 79. Eddie Mecca died on a date with 79 numerology. That's also the value of Laverne and Shirley. Mecca died in Newhall, California, which also equals 79. Don't forget the word murder, 79. But there's one more bizarre riddle with this death. So Eddie Mecca was born in the year 52, and his death fell exactly 5 months and 2 weeks after his birthday. Recently, the Bucks just won the NBA championship on the 52nd anniversary of the moon landing. Now, the number 52 in Gematria sums to 124. Last year, on the date December 4th, exactly 1 year before this year's eclipse, we had the death of actor David Lander, who played Squiggy on this same television series, Laverne and Shirley. And think about the name Lander, right? The Bucks winning the NBA title on the anniversary of the moon landing, with the lunar lander landing and taking off from the moon. It's ridiculous. Both David Lander and Eddie Mecca died 166 days after their own birthdays. And again, this guy's birth name, Rudy Mecchian, equals 166. They also died 358 days apart. The 358th prime number is the Jewish gematria of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And yeah, of course, I kind of thought it goes without saying, right? Mecca, a word connected to religion as it's the holy place for Muslims. A lot of people take pilgrimages to the Mecca. And yes, Eddie Mecca was born on June 14th, Trump's birthday, Trump's 6th birthday to be exact. Could be a connection there. I'm not going to dive too deep into it, though. Mainly because we had another significant death, and this was another November 30th death. So again, I hate to beat the drum over and over, but November 30th, I said, was going to be a big date for news connected to coronavirus. And on November 30th, we got the death of televangelist Marcus Lamb. And this man was on record for being an anti-vaxxer, and of course he dies of CV19. So the media is using this story as a reason for people to go get the shot, even though they're also publishing stories telling us that people are dying of the shots. So perpetual confusion is the goal, and unfortunately it works for far too many people. So again, November 30th, right? The only date on the calendar that has this gematria of 1331 in Latin gematria. It was the date of the 1331 eclipse, which is 1331. Both 133 and 331 summing to 1331. So how bizarre that we get the death of Marcus Lamb. And Marcus Lamb equals 103 and 31. Marcus Lamb was the CEO of Daystar TV. Look at the gematria of Daystar TV. 13, 31. This man's last name was Lamb. And when we think about lamb in the Bible, often it's associated with sacrifices and burnt offerings. Lamb died at the age of 64, and notice how that is the reduction value of sacrificial lamb, 64. This guy was known for being a voice in the anti-vaccination movement. Check out how anti-vaccination equals 155, which is the same value as coronavirus, 155. And on November 30th, we get the death of Marcus Darren Lamb, whose name equals 155 and 56, just like coronavirus. Now, the virus is called COVID-19, right? 19. Marcus D. Lamb equals 19 in reverse. Notice how his name sums to 107 in the alphabetic order. And he was born on the date October 7th, written 10/7. Well, if you measure to his next birthday, you get 10 months and 7 days. And check out the gematria of sacrificial lamb in reverse, 107, like Marcus D. Lamb. So not only is the name Lamb so ideal for a pastor, but his TV network, Daystar, is based in Texas, specifically Dallas, Texas, where in 1993 they founded this television network. So this guy dies on November 30th, and then a couple days later, we get the Dallas Cowboys playing on Thursday Night Football on national television. And the Dallas Cowboys have a player named C.D. Lamb. C.D. Lamb. And I even believe this is the Cowboys' #1 receiver, right? Now check out how he's got this bizarre name, C.D. with the capital D. Well, in our capital letter cipher, the name C.D. Lamb also has this value of 107. And again, this is just the alphabetic order, with capital letters interspersed with small ones. Now, in ordinal, his name equals 55. C.D. Lamb, 55. C.D. Lamb played on national television on a date with 55 numerology. The name Lamb equals 55 in that same capital cipher. Marcus Lamb died a span of 55 days after his birthday. Notice how C.D. Lamb wears number 88 for the Cowboys. And Marcus Lamb's network was Daystar. Check out how Daystar equals 88. This guy was a televangelist, which equals 151, 274. Dallas Cowboys, 151, 274. Finally, C.D. Lamb's full name equals 75. Marcus Lamb died 75 days before the Super Bowl. And there's a prime chain between 75 and the number of days old that Lamb was when he died. Pretty deep stuff. One other major death we had this past week was Pro Football Hall of Famer Claude Humphrey. And this is one of an ongoing series of deaths that appear to be connected to this year's Super Bowl. So a couple weeks ago, we had the death of Sam Huff, and news of his death broke on a Sunday morning, just as the games were getting underway. Last week, we had the death of, who was it? Curly Culp. And Curly Culp, his death made news Sunday morning just before the games got underway. And now the same thing, Claude Humphrey, dying on December 3rd, his death making news yesterday just before the NFL games got underway. It's like clockwork with this stuff. Now notice how Claude Humphrey's full name is given as Claude B. Humphrey. Now this has Gematria of 72 in both reduction methods. 72. He died exactly 72 days before this year's Super Bowl. And he even went to college at Tennessee State, which is going to be relevant to this. Tennessee State equals 72. Think about how this year's Super Bowl is the 56th Super Bowl. Claude Humphrey's College of Tennessee State, which we'll talk more about in a second, went 5-6 this season. Humphrey spent most of his NFL career playing for the Atlanta Falcons, who were 5-6 when he died. And the Falcons are also in their 56th season. Notice how the name Claude Humphrey equals 65. He died on a date with 56 numerology. So there's definitely a Super Bowl riddle here. This year's Super Bowl will be played on the 44th day of the year. The word kill equals 44. Claude Humphrey played, again, most of his career for Atlanta. And think about how the Atlanta area code is 404. He was born in the year 44. He died at the age of almost exactly 4,040 weeks. Atlanta is, of course, in Georgia, which equals 44. But think about how this man's death was revealed in the media during the Georgia game. So yesterday, number 1 Georgia was beaten by Alabama in college football. It was their first defeat of the season. And while that game was happening, this news broke. So let's talk a little bit more about Tennessee State, the college that Claude Humphrey attended. Tennessee State just finished their first season under head coach Eddie George, who was a famous NFL running back for the Tennessee Titans. So we'll see how this death is connected to Eddie George's numbers. First of all, let's think about how Claude Humphrey died at the age of 77. Now, the number 77 is actually pointed out a few times in Fox News' article. And the reason is Humphrey was part of the best defense in NFL history. That happened in 1977. So he played for the Falcons, who allowed only 9.2 points per game, still to this day an NFL best. But even though they were the best defense in 77, they only finished 7-7. And this was the last year, by the way, that the NFL only played 14 games. And it just so happens that Claude Humphrey was not inducted into the Hall of Fame until the year 14, which was 33 years after he retired. And then he goes on to die at the age of 77. So check this out. The number 77 in Jewish Gematria sums to 218. The name Claude Humphrey in reverse Gematria equals 218. And this brings us to the connection of the new Tennessee State head coach, whose full name equals 218 in that same Jewish cipher. Of course, ATL, the team that he spent most of his career with, equals 33. Atlanta's on the 33rd parallel. Humphrey was not inducted into the Hall of Fame until 33 years after he retired. And then he died a span of 33 days after the Atlanta Braves won the World Series. Look at this. I'm sorry, news of his death broke 33 days after the World Series. Now, I don't know if Fox Headlines still has that typo. No, they don't. Maybe it was a coincidence, but I think it's weird anytime a major news publication has a typo in their headline, as Fox did here. Look at this. Football Hall of Famer Claude Humphrey dies as age 77. That's not right. Of course, it's supposed to be at 77, so they fixed it. However, when you use full number calculation here, I think it's Pro Football Hall of Famer. All right, what was this? Football Hall of Famer Claude Humphrey dies at age 77. There we go. 487. Finally got it to match what it said. So I don't do this very often anymore, but these media outlets code their headlines with numbers relevant to the story. So in Gematria, this headline with the typo sums to 487. And look how old Eddie George was when Claude Humphrey died. 48 years and 70 days old. The 70 is relevant because Claude Humphrey equals 70. But on top of this, the number 487 is a prime number. That would be the 93rd prime number. Claude Humphrey played in one Super Bowl during his career. He never won a Super Bowl, but he did play in one. That was during his time with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Philadelphia Eagles equals 93. And the Eagles recently hired a new coach also. That would be Nick Sirianni. And the name Sirianni equals 93. By the way, Philadelphia Eagles sums to 150 in ordinal, like the number 15. And the only Super Bowl Humphrey played in was Super Bowl 15 with the Philadelphia Eagles. So let's take a look at Nick Sirianni, who is connected here as well. Notice how Nick Sirianni was hired on the date January 24th, which is written 124. Claude Humphrey's death made the news on 12/4, again 124. And in Gematria, the name Claude Humphrey equals 1024. See how Claude Humphrey equals 65, just like Philadelphia 65? The 65th prime number is 313, and Claude Humphrey died exactly 313 days after the Eagles hired Nick Sirianni. The name Nick Sirianni also sums to 130. Remember, that's that human sacrifice number. But the number 130 was pretty relevant to Humphrey's career as well. Notice how this article points out that Humphrey was credited with 130 sacks over 13 seasons. Remember, guys, this year's Super Bowl is the first Super Bowl to be played on the 13th day of the month in almost half a century. And Claude Humphrey died during Week 13 in the NFL. And there's even more interesting stuff here. So we were talking about Eddie George. Eddie George was hired by Tennessee State on April 13th, 2021. Okay, I just realized how abstract this connection is, but hear me out. NFL referee Ben Draith just died earlier this year. So Claude Humphrey played in one Super Bowl, and during the game, Super Bowl 15, he was involved in an altercation with the referee where he threw the flag back at the official, which is a really weird thing to do. But it happened during the Super Bowl. And the official he threw the flag at was Ben Draith. So again, I think this is a little abstract, but notice how Eddie George was hired as the coach of Tennessee State a span of 13 days before Ben Draith died. And now Claude Humphrey has died a span of 13 days after the end of Tennessee State's first season with Eddie George. And Eddie George's full name has matching gematria with 13. So do I think this is organic or orchestrated? That's a good question. I think we're seeing a number of different things in the media with these deaths. I believe that oftentimes these older people aren't dying, but they report their death as if they did. So they can just, retire, live the rest of their life off and, out of the spotlight. Maybe they get a little insurance payoff or something. Another thing is that if you fake your death, you also get to see everyone memorialize you, which I think would be pretty cool. So these are just theories I have. So here's an instance where, this guy's numbers were so coded with this year's Super Bowl that it would make sense to just report his death this year. That being said, you guys know I'm a firm believer in the organic matrix and that some of these things may happen naturally. I think we'll never know when it comes to some of this stuff because a lot of these people's lives are very private, very hidden, and that's all for good purpose. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not big into the whole murder by numbers thing. Remember, I do think there are probably cases where celebrities are killed on a certain date or something like that. But I don't know that. My only evidence of that is numerical alignments. But when I look at anyone's death, there are significant numerical alignments. So, this is all for... Look, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to show you the alignments so you have better information to think with. All right, back to the November 30th riddles. We had another big thing happen on November 30th this year. The nation of Barbados officially severed ties with England and the United Kingdom and swore in their first ever president. And this all happened on November 30th. Now, the first president of Barbados is named Sandra Mason. What are the odds, hey? Sandra Mason is also the chancellor of the Order of Barbados, which is obviously, some form of secret society. I didn't read too deeply into this, so I don't know if it's connected to Masonry or the Jesuit order, maybe both. To me, it seems very Masonic. And now the first president of the country named Mason. So, all right, let's get into this here. First of all, let's check out how Barbados was actually declared an independent state back in 1966 on this same date, November 30th. And 1966 was 55 years before 2021. And in reverse reduction, Barbados equals 55. Again, Sandra Mason, head of the Order of Barbados, which equals 505. This year, November 30th fell 690 years after this big 1331 eclipse. And notice how the same digits in 690 are found in the Latin Gematria of Barbados Republic, 609. Barbados Republic also matches total solar eclipse, 67 and 104. So in order to become its own republic, Barbados had to split ties with the United Kingdom, which is ruled by Queen Elizabeth. And Queen Elizabeth was technically the head of state in Barbados until November 30th. Queen Elizabeth recently turned 1,147 months old. That's the English extended value of Freemasonry, 1147. When Mason was installed as the president, Queen Elizabeth was 223 days after her birthday. That's the Jewish gematria of Masonic. Obviously, a Masonic individual installed. Check out how Sandra Mason's full name sums to 74 and 115 in reduction. That's the same as Masonic in ordinal, 74 and 115. Mason took office 317 days after her birthday. Now, that's the 66th prime number. It's also 6 weeks, 6 days before her next birthday. And that's relevant because Barbados became an independent state in the year 66. Notice how Republic of Barbados sums to 665. This could be a rule of Colel situation with 666. Sandra Mason was elected president on Kamala Harris's 57th birthday. And think about how Masonry is controlled by the Scottish Rite, which equals 57. Also connected to the 666 code. Triple sixes equals 57. Sandra Mason, of course, a black president. Kamala Harris, the first black vice president. Clear alignments there. Barbados' special date, November 11th, can also be written 3011, as it is in most parts of the world, like 311. And remember, 311 connected to the beast 311. Over the past couple decades, the number 616 has gained attraction as the true number of the beast. This all traces back to Papyrus 115. I've done a lot of work on this. Check out my video on Chris Paul for a perfect example. And check out how old Sandra Mason was when she became president. She's got a 666 and a 616 in her age. Furthermore, there's a 666 and a 616 when you measure from United Kingdom rule way back in 1625. On top of that, the name Sandra Mason sums to 119. That's a really Masonic number connected to the two pillars. But 119 is celebrated as the birthday of Jesus by many. And there's a lot of scholars who think they have figured this out. September 11th, the first of Tishri on the Hebrew calendar, the Feast of Trumpets. And the date September 11th can be written 11/9. Freemasonry, of course, very concerned with Jesus, the Jesus Code. But notice how Sandra Mason in trigonal sums to 985, which is the Jewish gematria of Jesus. And in our trusty Fibonacci cipher, a nice little nugget cipher, which has some really cool stuff in it from time to time, Sandra Mason also equals 925, which is the English value of Jesus Christ, 925. And, you know, a black president. Come on, guys. Was Jesus white, given where he was born and lived? Of course not. So we see how this all ties in. And, you know, this is a ritual where, just thinking out loud, I mean, I've done a lot of work exposing Freemasonry, Masonic rituals, the Jesuit order over time. On the other hand, I don't think everything that's going on in Masonry is bad. Just theorizing here, like, this is a small nation with only 200, 300,000 people. I don't know. Is all ritual evil is what I'm asking. Is there anything nefarious about installing this president on this date? You know, maybe it's all mockery. I don't know. All right, so we've gone over about an hour today. And I wanted to get to this post before I finished up. And I'm glad I did, because this is a really good one. We're going to talk a little bit about Masonic, Jesuit, Mormon geomancy. This is actually one of my favorite topics, right? Looking at significant coordinates on the globe and checking out objects around it to see how secret societies have coded their significant numerology directly around us, whether it's in their monuments, significant natural formations, things like that. And one of the greatest examples of this I just found over this weekend. An old friend of mine texted me and asked me about this, so I said, hey, I was pretty familiar with these numbers. I'll take a look and let you know what I found. And what I found was a pretty amazing ritual that led to the creation of this town called Kearney in the state of Arizona. So I'm actually going to open up Google Earth so we can take a better look at this. So bear with me for a second while I pull this up. But what we're going to do is look up some coordinates. 33 degrees north and 111 degrees west. And we are taken to a spot in the middle of absolute nowhere. 33 degrees north, 111 west. Not much to see here. It's just some sand, some cacti, some rocks, whatever. But if you zoom out, you zoom out, you zoom out, you zoom out, eventually a town comes into focus. And out of everything we see here, there's one little town up here called Kearney. And I want you to notice the shape of this town, because it's very obvious that there's something going on here. See how it's kind of situated like an amphitheater, right? Almost like a partial circle outward from this pair of roads here. And it's pointing directly at 33 degrees north, 111 west. So I thought, that's pretty strange. And then I started looking at this. I said, it almost looks like a megaphone, the way it's shaped, like it's blaring something outward at that spot. But this is where it gets weird. You zoom in even further and look at the shape of these roads. Notice how right here we have the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a Mormon church. And I know it's really small on the screen here, but the Mormon symbol that they have is a man blowing a trumpet. And this ties back to Moroni. We'll get there in a second. But look at the shape of these roads, guys. Look at this. Here we have the mouthpiece, right? And then these roads create a trumpet, all the way up to the big horn at the end with this large circular road coming off the main road. So here we have the trumpet, and then you zoom out and you have the sound waves blaring outward from the trumpet. And this trumpet is playing exactly to 33 degrees north, 111 west. Hands down, I think that's pretty clearly obvious that this is intentional. Just pointed out here. Here's a little graphic so you can see the similarities. The word trumpet has gematria of 76, which matches Kearney, Arizona. Let's bring up Kearney here. And here's a little shot of Moroni, the Mormon prophet who's usually seen blaring his trumpet. Moroni, one of the writers in the Book of Mormon, the son of Mormon. Kearney, Arizona is located in Pinal County, Arizona. And it's the only Pinal County in America. But think about Pinal in relation to the pineal gland, which is, of course, responsible for our spiritual connection to everything that exists in our brain. And notice how Pinal County is shaped like a crown. A crown which has gematria of 74 in the alphabetic order. Now, I can see how people would be critical of this because I'm putting the word in front of it, but 74 is the big number of Jesus, the King, right? Also known as the Messiah. And it was on a cross within the Gospels where his killing occurred per the parables, right? All 74. So it's no coincidence that the name Kearney equals 74. And Kearney was a general during the Mexican-American War who led a dragoon cavalry. Dragoon equals 74. Remember, Jesus was crucified on Mount Calvary, and Kearney was the leader of a big cavalry. So we know why the number 33 is significant to Jesus. Most people believe that he was crucified at the age of 33 in the year 33 AD. Crucifixion of Jesus Christ, 33. Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, 33. His crucifixion believed to occur on the date of a lunar eclipse. Lunar 33 and eclipse equals 33. Jesus sums to the same digits as 33. The number 33 is connected to 666. First of all, you write out 33, it equals 66 and 60. And then 33 also equals 156, like 666. We also have the number 111 in these coordinates, and 111 is symbolically connected to 666. Remember, anything with 111 gematria in the alphabetic order is going to sum to 666 in Sumerian gematria, 111666. And this goes back to the Hebrew language, where the letter Vav, which is the sixth letter, looks just like our current number 1. No coincidences there. Stephen Kearney is also known for the Kearney Code, which is the basis of law in the state of New Mexico, where his journey began. And New Mexico equals 111 and 666. 666 is, of course, connected to the magic square of the sun, Jesus, the Son of God, symbolic of the sun in the sky. So as we've mentioned several times during this video, 666 is the number of the beast, which equals 311 in this cipher. And check out the date that Stephen Kearney died, the 31st of October. The other date that can be written, 31-1, right? 311, like the beast. Again, 311, the 64th prime number. The name Stephen Kearney equals 64. And the town of Kearney, Arizona, was founded on a date with 64 numerology, which was also the 311th day of the year. That was November 7th, 1846. Now, I should clarify, that's not necessarily the date that this town was founded, but it's when Stephen Kearney camped in Kearney, Arizona. So we'll talk more about this in a second. Now, if you measure from the date that Kearney camped in Kearney to the date that he died, it was 724 days, from November 7th, 1846, to the date he died. 724, huh? Well, that's the gematria of number of the beast in that same method, 724. In Hebrew Gematria, Revelation equals 844. That's the book where the number of the beast is revealed. In Jewish Gematria, the name Stephen Kearney equals 844, just like Revelation. And there's a ton of Jesus Christ coding in this guy's journey. So, to quickly recap, Kearney was in New Mexico with his brigade of dragoons, and he was tasked with traveling westward to California to continue his role in the Mexican-American War. And it was on his way to California where they stopped in modern-day Kearney, Arizona to camp. Check out the date that he left New Mexico, 9/25/1846. These numbers are found in the value of Jesus Christ, 925 and 146. They say he left with 300 men. With capital letters, Jesus Christ equals 300. And then 43 days later is when they arrived in Kearney, Arizona. That's the reduction value of Jesus Christ, 43. In Jewish Gematria, Jesus the Messiah sums to 1331, a number we discussed earlier. Very significant number. But when you write out 1,331, you get this value of 1919. And look how old Kearney was when he left New Mexico for California. 19,019 days old. Remember, there are 19 years in the moon's metonic cycle. Metonic cycle equals 668, right? The name Kearney equals 866 in English Gematria. And again, the metonic cycle is 19 years. 19 equals 244. Look at the name Stephen Watts Kearney, 244 in the alphabetic order. This is the Hebrew Gematria of kill, by the way. This metonic cycle, 19 years, syncs up almost perfectly with 235 lunar phases. 235. Well, look at these large number ciphers. Stephen Watts Kearney, 235, 235. You got to be kidding me, right? How perfect is this ritual? In Fibonacci, even Jesus Christ equals 235. Now, if you flip the number 19 upside down, you get 61. And when Kearney arrived in modern-day Kearney, he was 19,061 days old. Look at the name Stephen Kearney. 190, 161, all tying together. The name Jesus equals 61 in reverse. And when he died on Halloween, October 31st, that's the date that leaves 61 days in the year. But think more about the date October 31st, written 1031. That's the same digits as 131, which is the ordinal value of crucifixion, 131. 1331 eclipse equals 131. So does ritual human sacrifice. But just to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is a deep biblical riddle to this town, let's look closer at the number 1031, which is when Kearney died. The number 1031 is a prime number. That would be the 173rd prime number. And check out how 1031 equals 173. If you flip the number 173 upside down, it turns into the word Eli. And during the crucifixion, in the King James Bible, Jesus shouts, Eli, Eli, which translates to my God. And how bizarre is it that in Arizona, also in Pinal County, there's a city called Eloy, Arizona. Eloi, like Eli. And if I'm not mistaken, this might even be like directly in the line. So let's do this. So if I draw a line from that middle of that trumpet there to our coordinates here, where is Eloy, Arizona? It's almost a straight line, hey? I wouldn't call that a complete straight line, but it seems close, right? So you have the trumpet playing directly to the coordinates, and then you go off a slight detour, but really the next big town down here is Eloy. So a pretty deep riddle there, but an overwhelmingly obvious one, and one I thought would be worth sharing. All right, Lambda, you got me again. I'm going to put this in. 19 years equals 1919. Ooh, that's good. Wow. I like the 82 over here, too. We talked a lot about this. And remember, guys, 19 years, I definitely believe that it is relevant because look at the 197, right? And how this connects to the Metonic cycle. In order for there to be 235 lunar phases, this means that in that 19-year period, 7 of them have 13 lunar phases. So this number makes sense for the Metonic cycle. And when you write out Metonic cycle, it equals 197. The Metonic cycle is also called Ania Deca Ateris. That's the Greek word for it. And it's called Metonic because of a Greek astronomer, Meton of Athens. Notice how Ania Deca Ateris equals 393. That's the third and only other number that sums to 1331. So that's a pretty cool one. And remember, guys, 13th month equals 197 as well. Someone asking about the La Palma volcano eruption. I saw there was another volcano eruption just like yesterday, I think. And I haven't done any work on that. I can't say I do a whole lot of work on... I don't know if I've done much on volcanoes. It's a weird decode, especially if it's something that occurs over multiple days. Not sure what I really need to look at there, but I'm sure there's something symbolic about it, so I'll take a glance this week. All right, guys. I'm probably going to wrap this stream up here as I skipped breakfast to do this stream. And darn it, I'm a little hungry. So I'm going to take care of that here. But thanks to everybody for jumping in and contributing in the live chat. Oh, that's an interesting question. Asking me if you think we're going to have to leave the United States. Well, that depends on what happens over the next few years. Because I think too many people resign themselves to the fact that everything's rigged and everything's scripted and that we're trapped. And that's not the case. The future is not set in stone. There are plans for the future, but whether or not they manifest is the result of a number of different factors. Some of those factors include how you respond to what they're doing. And although you yourself may only be a small part of that whole response, collectively, it would be enough to change the course. So I'm not going to say whether or not we'll need to leave. I mean, as long as those in charge don't get these draconian measures in place that they want, we won't have to leave. I'm a big believer in defending your homeland rather than fleeing to somewhere else that works better. Because if you flee, it's only a matter of time till they continue to encroach. I mean, you have to nip this stuff in the bud. So this ideology, this control that these governments these days want over the public population, I don't believe that we should run away from it and just assume that it's going to happen. That's, personally, maybe I'm wrong, and no shade at anybody who believes otherwise, but I don't see the point. I was born here. I enjoyed my time here in this country, living as we have with the laws we have. For things to come and change, I see as an attack on me. And when someone attacks me, I don't run away. I stand up for myself. So the idea that running away into the mountains and growing your own food, I mean, fine, go for it. I'd rather die fighting, honestly. And my situation is different than a lot of you guys. I didn't have a family. I left that idea. I saw other things that were happening that were too big, that were much bigger than me, that were big enough that they would impact the world in the future. So that's my take anyway. And yeah, I'm not trying to recruit an army or anything, but I'm just telling you guys, I think there's more, personally, I think there's more to be said for speaking up, standing up, fighting. And again, if you have a family and you'd rather escape all of this mess for the sake of your kids and whatnot, then that's great too. So yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we're supposed to live off of nature. And, I'm not saying all of our systems are the best. Are there better ways to grow and sustain our food supply? Absolutely. But we can do that in a way that honors nature and also uses technology. So, I'm big on allowing humans to use technology to their best ability, which is, I guess that's a big debate lately with robotics becoming so advanced. My stance on all that should probably require a little more clarification. But yeah, I mean, everyone should learn to grow food. Everyone should learn to hunt. That should be required stuff. And, to me, look, I don't want to sound like I got a big head or anything, even though I probably do. But the reason I'm doing Gematria is because I cannot live with the fact that this world is so stupid. I mean, there's so many people with so many wrong ideas about what's happening who are allowing themselves to be controlled, and things got to be fixed. And I want to make this information as available and digestible to the next generation as possible so that when they grow up, they are equipped with eyes to see. Because my parents, for instance, don't have eyes to see. Most people in my generation don't have eyes to see. I think it's our responsibility as members of this system, this system, this matrix, whatever, it's given us so many great things, so many blessings. I think we owe it to kind of fix it a little bit. And fixing it means fixing the fractured consciousnesses that are so prevalent in this world. So, yeah, I live in Wisconsin. I don't want to move from Wisconsin because a bunch of sick motherfuckers want to tell me to wear a mask all day, every day, indoors, outdoors, taking experimental shots and telling me they're safe. I'm not going to run away from that. I'm going to stand up and tell them they're full of crap. And if they want to come to my door and inject me, well, it's a fight to the death. So have fun with that. Have fun with that. Have fun finding enough people to push that agenda. I don't think they can do it. Well, people have been programmed to reject this information. That's true. That's why it's important to teach this to kids as well, because I guarantee you guys, if you take a kid with a fresh mind who hasn't been through the internment camps that we call public school, and you show him this knowledge, it's almost guaranteed to click. I mean, it has to. At least like the really basic stuff. I don't think human beings are naturally resistant to this knowledge. I think it has to be programmed, which is why there's so much television, so many movies, so much sporting on television. So yes, like the programming is out there, but we have to counter that. Like the people who are putting all of this satanic imagery out and trying to wrap people up in the 666 frame of existence, that's being sourced from a place of evil. And as doers of good, I feel like we have to try to counter that. We don't run away from it. We stand up to it and do something. So I am really hungry for some breakfast. This has been a great chat. I'm glad everybody stuck around to the end once again. And yeah, I look forward to doing more super streams. And I hope you guys have been paying attention to the blog. I mean, I do these super streams because it's a lot of work to do, to put a graphic and these videos together. It's a lot easier for me to do a bunch at one. But, guys, if you're craving numerology and I don't have a video out in the last couple of days, check my blog out. I am back to blogging a lot. 12 posts already this month, for instance. And we're doing history by the numbers. We're doing a lot of news by the numbers. And again, I believe this is one of the best numerology blogs in the world. You will learn a lot. And the beautiful thing about it is that so many things that I teach are very consistent. We talk about the significance of the same numbers over and over. And when you start to pay attention to the consistency of it is when this really, really settles in. So yeah, thanks everyone. Appreciate the love and support. Hope everyone's doing their part in sharing this type of knowledge with the souls around them who may be ready to wake up. All right. Peace, love, God bless. We'll talk to all you truth seekers next time. See ya.